Get ready to dive into something unexpected because today we're taking a deep dive into the future of stripping.
Yeah, it's not exactly your typical Tuesday topic, is it?
Definitely not something you see in your newsfeed every day. We're looking at a whole bunch of different sources today, future trends, real stories, even going way back in the history books a little.
Should be interesting to see where this goes.
So this isn't just about, the entertainment side of things. This is about how a certain group of people are figuring out these huge changes in their industry
Yeah.
and making it work for them, which honestly I think is something we can all relate to a bit.
Oh, absolutely. And it's fascinating how these people are using tech and social media to do that, just like we're seeing everywhere else, right?
Yep.
You've got this report, Strippers Strategizing for Success in 2025. Sounds more like a business strategy meeting, honestly.
Right.
With all this talk of brand building and AI integration, even diversified income streams.
Okay, wait, hold on. AI for strippers. I did not see that one coming.
Right. Sounds kind of crazy at first, but when you think about it, AI could actually give them a huge advantage over the competition. Like imagine if you had an AI that could tell you what your audience really wants to see, what kind of content is really landing, when's the best time to post, could even help craft the perfect personalized message for fans.
So it's like instead of just hoping for the best, they've got data to back them up.
Exactly. And that means more time and energy to focus on what they're good at, the actual performance, making that connection with the audience. And it shows you how strippers are getting smarter about the business side of things, really taking charge of their own brands.
It's almost like they're building a career, something sustainable, which, by the way, is a big deal in that 2025 report.
For sure. There's a huge emphasis on community too, right?
Mhm.
Supporting each other, creating an industry that's actually ethical and sustainable in the long run. Stuff like creating different income streams, not just relying on stage performances, but also things like online content, merch, even coaching or workshops.
So it's not just surviving in this digital age, it's straight up thriving.
100%.
Yeah.
Which brings us to something else interesting.
Which is?
The real people behind all of this.
Yeah.
Got to talk about the real life stories.
Okay, so we've got the big picture, all those 2025 trends, but what about the real people living this? Like right now, this is where it gets
It
juicy.
really does. It's like they say, truth is stranger than fiction, right? And this story, this kept wife TikToker,
Yeah.
total case in point.
Okay, so you've got this woman living what looks like the dream life, gorgeous house, designer everything, always on vacation, all thanks to her, quote, very generous husband.
And then bam, the internet digs up her past,
Mhm.
and she was a what? Yep, you guessed it,
Yep.
stripper.
And people completely lost it. Suddenly, everyone's talking about judging, second chances, can you outrun your past? It was wild. What do you think it was about that specific story that got people so riled up?
I think it's that whole image she built online, right? Just completely
Right.
blew apart.
Oh, totally. It's like whiplash almost.
Mhm.
On the one hand, you've got this perfect kept wife thing going on, right? But then there's this whole other side, this gritty, independent, kind of rebellious past. It makes you wonder, are we all just putting on a show online?
For sure. Like we all have different sides to us, right? I can't always hide who you really are, even with the most perfect Instagram feed.
No kidding. Speaking of unexpected things, did you see that article about stripping in Vermont? Vermont, of all places?
Well, I know, right? Talk about your plot twists.
Yeah.
You think Vermont, you think like Ben and Jerry's, Bernie Sanders, maybe some really nice cheese. Not that.
Exactly. But even in a place known for being all about those progressive values, turns out that whole industry has a history there. It might be kind of hidden, but it's there.
Yeah.
They had these girly shows at the county fairs, even a few underground clubs way back when.
It's almost like a secret history, you know? Just goes to show things aren't always what they seem.
For real. But here's the kicker. The article also said that right now, Vermont doesn't actually have any strip clubs at all. None. But, and this is a big but, there's clearly still a demand because one of the women from Vermont is now a really successful stripper. Just not in Vermont, obviously. So what's that telling us?
Like you can't just erase what people want, even if you try to, regulate it out of existence. The article actually called it a dormant market, which I thought was a really interesting way to put it.
Dormant market. I like that. And maybe it's not even about where you are anymore, right? It's about finding new ways, new platforms to reach people, which, speaking of new platforms, did you hear about this whole thing with the Oscars? Stripples at the Oscars. Okay, now that's something I never thought I'd say.
Right. And not just on someone's arm, but like as the stars of these critically acclaimed films, that's got to mean something.
So tell me about this movie, Anora. What's all the hype about?
Well, everyone's saying Honor is going to be huge at the Oscars this year. And we're not talking like the little nominations either. Think Best Picture, Best Director. even Best Actress.
Wow, seriously. That almost never happens for movies about this industry, like ever.
It really doesn't. And the director's a big deal too. Someone who's known for making movies that are really character-driven, that make you think, this isn't just a movie about stripping. It uses that world as a backdrop to talk about all these other things,
Mhm.
being a mom, going after your dreams, even what it costs to make it.
It really makes you wonder, right? Are we finally at this place where we can appreciate these stories, like see the people behind all of the
I
stereotypes?
think it's possible. And it's not just indie films either. Remember Hustlers from a few years back?
Mm.
Big stars, made a ton of money, and critics loved it because it showed these women as smart, powerful businesswomen.
Right, right. Everyone was calling it a feminist heist movie or something. Okay, so does this mean you're going to tell me Jaguars is like high art now too?
Well, not exactly, but it is interesting to think about in comparison.
Totally. Okay, remind me again, why is Jaguars such a big deal? I need to hear those details.
Okay, so Jaguars Club, it's in Phoenix, and it's basically like the Las Vegas of strip clubs. Imagine like 5 stages, 100 dancers, private rooms, the whole 9 yards.
Talk about a far cry from those Vermont County fairs we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And I think that's the point. Just like any other industry, the stripping industry gets it. They understand that you got to cater to different people, create an experience.
This is like the opposite of your grandma's night out, right?
Yeah.
This is for a very specific type of clientele.
Exactly. And it goes back to that whole idea of strippers as entrepreneurs that we were talking about earlier. They're not just like selling a dance. It's a whole vibe, a fantasy, this feeling of being special.
Uh-huh.
And that takes real business smarts, knowing how to market yourself, understanding exactly what your audience wants.
Wow. So we have covered so much ground today. From AI and social media strategies to the Oscars and high-end clubs, it's clear that stripping is changing all the time. So what's the takeaway here?
In a lot of ways, the stripping industry is a reflection of the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
Always changing, always pushing boundaries, making us really examine what we think we know. It's full of contradictions, and it's definitely complicated. You've got tradition bumping up against all this new stuff, personal stories intertwined with these bigger cultural shifts. It's fascinating.
I mean, we went from county fairs to the Oscars in like an hour. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Totally. So as technology keeps blurring the lines between fantasy and reality, how will all of this affect how we view strippers and the whole industry itself in the years to come? Will we see more movies like Anora, more strippers taking control and building their own businesses? Will we even have to rethink what success and empowerment really mean? Will we have to reconsider what entertainment even is anymore? These are some pretty big questions, and I think they're worth thinking about, as we head into the future.